today's video, we're talking about Jerry Seinfeld. For those of you that don't know, Jerry Seinfeld is a famous comedian who's best known as being the star of the hit sitcom Seinfeld, which aired from 1989 to 1998. Seinfeld is also actually my favorite sitcom of all time, and I actually own all of the DVDs just to age myself a little bit there. And for those of you that also don't know, Seinfeld is a very big car collector. And not just that, he's an avid Porsche fan and has one of the most impressive Porsche collections in the world. Now, Jerry Seinfeld is pretty secretive about his Porsche collection and his car collection in general, so a lot of stuff is pretty speculative, and we're not 100% sure of every single car in his collection. But I want to talk about the way I was able to acquire this list. So Jerry's been known to auction off his cars. Obviously, there's rumors to which cars he's bought and, which cars he's purchased throughout his career. Because, being as famous as Jerry is, it's tough to keep many things completely secretive. So there's definitely some information out there. And as far as the cars that he's put up for auction, those are cars we know for sure have been in his collection. And there's some cars on there that haven't necessarily sold. They didn't meet reserve, so we'll talk about those as well. Not to mention the Porsches that have appeared on his show, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. So without further ado, let's jump right into Jerry Seinfeld's massive Porsche collection of over 20 Porsches in over $22 million in value. And keep in mind, those are just the cars we know about. So first off, we have a 1949 Porsche 356-2. This is the very first Porsche officially made by the company. 52 of them were produced using mostly Volkswagen parts, and of those 52, Seinfeld owns number 40. Next, we have the 1953 Porsche 550-3. This was the third Porsche 550 prototype built, and the first to have the latest Ernst Fuhrmann designed Type 547 quad cam engine installed. Now we have the 1955 Porsche 550 Spyder. This car was iconic for Porsche, and it was a clear cut above the rest in the 1.1 and 1.5 liter classes, and its advantages led to it becoming the dominant design for top-level racing cars by the mid-1960s. This was the most expensive car that Jerry has sold at auction, and it sold for $5,335,000 US. Just a quick heads up that all prices will be in USD. Next, we have the 1957 Porsche 356 A Speedster. The 356, once again, was Porsche's very first production automobile. And so it's pretty easy to see how this car has a special place in the heart of many Porsche fans and collectors alike. This car sold at auction for $682,000. Next, we have the 1958 Porsche 356A 1500 GS GT Carrera Speedster, and this sold for $1,540,000. Later, we would discover that this Porsche was not, in fact, the model that it was represented as at auction. And Jerry Seinfeld went on to say that he had his guys inspect it prior to him buying the car, and he had no idea. Now, this next one's interesting. This is the 1958 Porsche 597, I'm going to butcher this name, the Jagdwagen. This was essentially a light military vehicle produced by Porsche, and it was meant to fill the same role as a Jeep. And this sold at auction for $330,000. Now, if you know the 550, this one is pretty similar. This is the 1959 Porsche 718 Spyder, or the 718 RSK Spyder. The 718, it was essentially an improved version of the 550 with improvements made to the bodywork and suspension. This was a pretty big one at the auction. This sold for $2,860,000. Next up, we have the 1963 Porsche 356B 2000 GS Carrera 2 Coupe. With the introduction of a 2-liter engine from the previous 1.6-liter, Porsche finally decided to add a Carrera model to their 356 lineup, and thus you have this car, which sold at auction for $825,000. So for Porsche fans, this is a big one right here. This is the 1964 Porsche 911, and the 1964 was the first model year for the 911. And the 911 is one of the most iconic Porsche models, and it's often cited as the most successful competition car ever, especially when you factor in all the variants. And it's rumored that Jerry paid around $400,000 for this in 1996. These next few are going to go by pretty quick. We have the 1965 Porsche 356 Coupe and the 1966 Porsche 911, which this one actually sold at auction for $275,000. Following that, we have the 1966 Porsche 356 SC Cabriolet Dutch police car. Now, the last 10 356 Cabriolets were assembled for the Dutch police force in March 1966 as 1965 models. Then we have the 1970 Porsche 911S Henri. This one definitely stands out with its vibrant green color, that's for sure. Following that, we have the 1973 Porsche 91730 Can-Am Spyder. This 1600 horsepower race car was built to compete in the Can-Am Championship, and it used a twin-turbo version of Porsche's flat 12 engine. That's right, 1600 horsepower. And this thing sold at auction for $3 million. Next, we have the 1973 Porsche 911 Carrera RS. And the estimated value for this is around $650,000. Here comes another multi-million-dollar Porsche with the 1974 Porsche 911 Carrera 3 IROC RSR. A 1 of 15 specially built for Roger Penske's IROC series. This one sold at auction for $2,310,000. Next is the 1979 Porsche 930 Turbo and the 1986 Porsche 959. Now, the Porsche 959 first started out as a Group B rally car that later saw production as a road legal car. And when it became street legal, it was the world's fastest production car at the time, achieving a top speed of 197 miles per hour, with some variants even going as fast as 211 miles per hour. It's rumored that Seinfeld paid around $700,000 for this car. Then we have the 1989 Porsche 911 Speedster, which sold for $363,000, followed by the 1990 Porsche 962C. The Porsche 962 is a sports prototype racing car built by Porsche. The C denotes the Group C version of the car. Overall, the 962 had a pretty long-lived career, lasting into the mid-1990s from its introduction in 1984. And this one sold at auction for $1,650,000. And I apologize for this next one because I'm definitely going to butcher the name on it as well. So this is the 1994 Porsche 964 Turbo 3.6 S Flachbau. I don't know if that's right, but either way, it sold at auction for $1,017,500. This one of 45 is the 1997 Porsche 993 3.8 Cup RSR, and it was the final evolution of the naturally aspirated air-cooled racing 911, and it sold for $935,000. Now this is really cool. This is a one of two Carrera GT prototype from 2000 that was built by Porsche. It had a powertrain based on the canceled Porsche LMP 2000 racing car, and it was purchased by Jerry directly from Porsche in 2007. This one actually didn't meet the reserve and it went unsold. But the estimated value is anywhere from $1.5 million to $2.25 million. Next, we have a 2011 Porsche 997 Speedster. Jerry's was number 9 of 356 with less than 5,000 miles. It sold for $440,000. Second to last, we have a 2012 Porsche 997 GT3 4 Cup Brumos Commemorative Edition. A 1 of 5 with specifications matching the 2011 championship-winning Grand Am car. It was virtually new with less than 2 hours of track use, and it sold for $462,000. Finally, we have a 2016 Porsche 911 GT3 RS, customized for Seinfeld with over $250,000 of extras and a final sticker price of $440,000. $49,890. And this thing doesn't look like your typical GT3 RS, but Seinfeld didn't want it to. So again, these are all the cars we know of based on auctions, the shows he's been on, and rumors pretty much. So keep in mind, there could be way more Porsches in his collection that we don't even know about. This is over $22 million worth of cars, and this is just what we know. There could very easily be another $20 to $30 million worth of Porsches in his collection still. Of course, it's all just speculation. Anyhow, which of these was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you're new here and you love cars, then join me for the ride. Hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.